how can I love anything more than I love my kids? If you love the Lord more than you love everything else, your love for your family is actually bigger. And so he's saying, just don't put them above me, right? If you don't put them above me, it's actually going to be more. You're going to give them. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Bible 365. I am your host, Kathy Carter, and I am bringing you the Bible in 365 days using the chronological Bible reading plan. So it is a historical reading plan. It is available online at oneyearbibleonline.com underneath your chronological reading plans. Today is day 282. It is October 8th, and our reading today is Matthew 9:27 through 10:42. 13:53 through 58, Mark 6:1 through 13, and Luke 9:1 through 6. I'm excited if you guys have been here before, so welcome back. So you know where we are. If you have never been here before, I go over history for 2 minutes, where we've been and where we are now, because you can see that we're in the Gospels. We're very far along in our reading. I always would love if you went back to the beginning, and I actually know some people who did start like maybe 10, 15, 20 days ago, and they went all the way back to the beginning to go back there again and build up their foundation. This little history that I give you is fine. It's like a nice base that I give you a little bit of something, but it's nothing like going back and really going back to the beginning and starting from your foundation. It will give you the entire Bible in 1 year, and that's really what you want in order to make the most sense of where we are now. So the New Testament is amazing. Jesus is amazing, but without the foundation of the Old Testament and everything that God, the Lord, has provided for the nation of Israel in order to get to this piece, it is really hard to completely grasp how good it actually is. And so you get a little bit of that gift, but you don't get the full picture of the gift. And we haven't even got to the Gentiles and how we kind of fit in that yet. And then that's going to be even more extraordinary. So here is your brief history. I do 1 minute of Old Testament and 1 minute of New Testament. So it is super squeezed and condensed. So if you want to fast forward, go to 4 minutes. Okay, Old Testament. The Lord, before time began, he was and he will always be. He is a being that exists beyond our understanding. He gives us a little bit through the book, but he is more than our minds can comprehend. But what we do know is that he created everything. He created every star. He created every planet in the universe. He created gravity. He created the sky. He created the moons. He created everything that exists in this world. He also created us. He created us. He created everything else by just saying, and with us, he breathed his life into us. He breathed life into us. So we are alive. We are made in his image and to be in relationship with him. So there are many other beings. There are angels. There are demons. There are animals on the earth, right? The earth itself is a being. So all of this, but we are the ones that he created in his image to be in community with him. In the beginning, Adam and Eve were tempted by a serpent. The serpent came up and said, "Did he say?" And they went, "Oh, maybe he didn't." And so they were tempted and they broke the relationship between themselves and the Lord. And the Lord, in his patience and his loving kindness and his mercy and his greatness, has continually, all through time, shown himself to us in order to draw us back into relationship with him. We consistently turn away, turn towards evil that is not good for us, things to love that are not of him, that are things that he doesn't desire. And so he sent Noah, he sent Moses, he sent Jacob, he sent Abraham, he sent Jacob, he sent the judges, he sent prophets. I'm sorry, Abraham and Jacob were before Moses. He sent the prophets, he sent, and now he's sending Jesus. So a bigger list, but now he sent Jesus. Jesus is both the fulfillment of all of the prophecies of all the messiahs or saviors, right? So he is now saving the people. He is also the Lord. The Lord said, "I will send myself." And so Jesus has come down in the form of an actual human. Like, he didn't descend from earth. He was born from a human woman as God, a perfect being. He was tempted, he was tried, he passed all of those things, all of those temptations that Adam was unable to pass. And now he is saving the nation of Israel first, but letting them know that the entire world is invited to come. This is something that starts out like this small little mustard seed, and now the entire world is going to be a part of this. And so now what we're seeing is he has performed miracles, right? All up and down Israel. He has shown them signs of who he is all up and down Israel. And then he did some teachings all up and down Israel. And now we're seeing like some more depth of some of his healings, some of his teachings. We're getting to know him a little bit more. He's slowly but surely opening the eyes of all the Israelites that aren't in front of him. Some Gentiles, right? Like the centurion, but mostly his people. He came initially for his people. He is an Israelite. He came for his people. All right. So we're going into Matthew 9. And in Matthew 9, it starts out. And again, some of these stories overlap each other, right? So I just tend to read from one. As Jesus went on from there, 2 blind men followed him, calling out, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." So the note here, I think, is relatively obvious. They're blind. They literally have no vision. And yet they can see that this guy is the Son of David. They don't know his lineage. They don't know who his parents are, right? But they know he's the Son of David. Now, if you did your foundation, if you read your Old Testament with me, what we know is the Son of David was promised. This was one of the promises that was made. There were many, many promises that were made. And this was in the line of the Son of David. David was promised to the people to come, and he was going to save them. Jesus is that Son of David that is there to save them. Jesus is the scepter that was always supposed to stay on the kingdom of David. Right now, they're living in a kingdom where there is no king. There is no Israelite king. So the scepter, what a king would hold to say that they were king, the scepter and the crown are on no Son of David. Jesus is that Son of David, and they have full recognition of it, even though they're blind. So then they ask for healing. And what he follows up with is, "Do you believe that I'm able to do this?" And they say yes. And so then, of course, he does it. This is another thing that I think is really important. Do you actually believe? So they now recognize he's the prophet. He's the Son of David, right? The one to come, the one that will save. Do you believe that he can make you see? These are men that have no vision. We don't know, like some of them, they tell us they've been blind since birth, right? We don't necessarily know that about them. But what we do know is that this is an impossible miracle. Even now, right? If you have no sight, I have a student that is in the school that I'm in, and she is mostly blind. She's not completely blind. She's mostly blind. They can do small things in order to help her with her vision. There are things that they can use. There are ways that they can zoom certain things. Some things are better for her than others. They cannot restore her sight fully and completely. It's just an impossibility. So what they're asking for is a miraculous impossibility. Make me see. Do you believe that I can do this? Yes, I do. Do you, my listener, myself, do you understand God enough to recognize this? When you ask these things from him, do you recognize who he really is? I think one of our big problems right now is that we actually don't know who Jesus is. A lot of people are like, yeah, Jesus is my co-pilot. He kind of steers me and guides me along. And I'm going to say you're missing the mark. Or he's the one who really, really loves me. You're missing the mark. He is so many of these things. He is and that's what all of these pages, right, are trying to show to you, is each individual thing that he is, because he's more than we give him credit for, in a way. And so I think that he's saying to these blind men, you know that I'm the Son of David, so you know that I'm the Messiah, the prophet that is to come. Do you believe that I can miraculously heal you? And they do. So their faith has been tested by him, right? It's been asked by him. And they came through that they did believe, because he says he touches their eyes. And then he says, according to your faith, let it be done to you. So maybe, because it says their sight was restored, but maybe if they didn't believe, their sight wouldn't have been restored. We don't know that, by the way, because it doesn't say that. I'm just throwing a maybe out there. So please, I don't want you to hear me saying like, oh, they're saying everything, if I'm sick, it depends on my faith. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in this particular circumstance, this is what he asked him. And I think there was a point and purpose to it. And so they were fully restored and they had eyes to see. And then he says, don't tell anyone. Once again, for whatever reason, don't tell anyone. And they go out and they tell everybody. Then they go out, they tell everyone, and then a demon-possessed man comes up, and this demon-possessed man is mute, so he can't speak. So here is another miracle that he's performing. He has now resurrected people. He has taken demon possession, right? He's taken demons out of people. He has healed the blind. He has made the blind see, and now he's going to make the mute speak. And so when they said that, he says, nothing like this has been done in Israel. This is not something they have ever seen. Even if we go back to Elijah and Elisha, right? These are not things that we have seen before. And it says, the Pharisees, either again, or this is another retelling of the story, the Pharisees say, it's by the prince of demons that he drives out demons. Once again, in their hardness of heart, instead of allowing themselves to see that he's the son of David, to believe that he really healed someone, they choose instead to dig their heels in and say he can only be doing this by the prince, because he's the prince of demons. All right, then we move down into Nazareth because he has some problems down in Nazareth as well. So this is where he was from. And it says Jesus left there and then goes to his hometown. This time he's accompanied by his disciples. So a whole bunch of them go down. And then when the Sabbath came, he teaches at the synagogue, which again is something we've seen before. People hear him, they're amazed, and they're like, oh my gosh, right? So again, they're like, wow, he's such a great teacher. They're not like these blind men, who the blind men are like, have mercy, right? Which have mercy in what way, right? Like, have mercy on us. You're the son of David. We believe that you can heal us. They're not in this position. They say instead, isn't this the carpenter? And I'm going to use tone because of the ending sentence. So you're going to hear me use tone in this one. And the tone is because contextually, we're going to see what follows. Isn't this the carpenter? Isn't this Mary's son and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? Aren't his sisters here with us? Like, this is just some guy. And I know it says that because it says they took offense at him. They were offended by him because he was a nobody. Like, he's a carpenter. Who is he? Why is he up there in the synagogue? Why is he saying any of those things? And so the people in his own hometown who he came back to, who you would think they would be the ones, they would be lifting him up, putting him on the show. Look at this, is the guy from us. And Nazareth's now going to be so amazing because the son of the Lord is here in our little town. And instead, they take offense at him and he leaves. And he says, Jesus says to him, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown. And I want to note what I just said earlier, where I said if they didn't fully believe, maybe they wouldn't be healed. It says right here, he couldn't do any miracles there. So because their faith was so lacking, because they didn't believe he was who he said he was, he couldn't heal him. He could lay his hands on a few sick people. So there was a little bit that he could do, but he couldn't do any of the things that he had been able to do in the other towns. This is telling. And so you guys are going to say, what do you mean he couldn't do it? Like, he literally couldn't. He was unable to do it. He's the Son of God. He can do whatever he wants to do. I'm going to go. I always try and say to you guys, I want to go by what the text says. And the text says he could not do any miracles because of their lack of faith. So it does say that he was amazed at their lack of faith. Like, he was even surprised that everyone in his hometown had such a lack of faith. So we're experiencing a little bit of humanity in him, that he's surprised, right? Like an all-knowing God. We go, he all know, right? He's all-knowing. An all-knowing God has a little bit of surprise at how lack of faith the people in his town were. And then he's unable to do anything because of that. So there's something maybe blocking him, which we saw back in the Old Testament. One of the prophets, and again, he wasn't the son of God, right? I think it was Ezekiel. An angel was trying to come get him, and he was like, I was blocked from coming to get you, so I had to send somebody else to come help me so I could come get you, right? Like, there is supernatural power. And yes, he's the God of all beings and God of all things. But yes, I hate to say he needs you, but I want to say he needs you. We need to believe. The gift is offered and the acceptance is for those who believe. He's not forcing anything on you. As a matter of fact, he's going to say, I can't do it there. because you deny me. You don't have faith. So I'm going to take this from Matthew 10. That's the longest version, and it seems to have the most amount of information. So it says, Jesus calls his 12 disciples to him and gives them authority to drive out impure spirits and heal every disease and sickness. So he lays his power and authority on them. So he transfers his power and authority to them. So now they can go from place to place and they can say with authority, get that spirit out of you, right? Like taking that demon out of them. And the demon would listen because of the authority and the power that they have received from Jesus. And they also have the power to heal sickness through that. So he sends out all 12. He sends them out 2 by 2. And it says the following instructions: do not go among the Gentiles or enter the town of the Samaritans. Right now, they are very specifically going to their people and their people alone. Now, we saw that Jesus did talk to others, right? The woman at the well was in Samaria and they spread that throughout the town, and he stayed there for a little while. The centurion was a Gentile, so he was talking to other people. But these people, he was only giving the power to go to the nation of Israel. And we're going to see these things change. And that's why there's some importance to it, because it will eventually there will be people that go out to the Gentiles. But right now he's keeping it in some ways in-house, and he's only giving them the authority to talk to the nation of Israel. So it says, give them this message: the kingdom of heaven has come near, which I'm going to say is Jesus. He says, heal the sick while you're out there, raise the dead. So he's giving them the power for that. Cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. He's giving them the power and the authority to do all these things. His response to them was, freely you have received, freely give. So Jesus gave this to them with no payment. He has nothing but giving it free and of himself. And he's telling them to do the same. So when you go there, you're not asking them for money. Like, and we've seen this before, where like the charlatans go out and they ask for money in order to perform any kind of miracles. That's not what he's saying. He's saying you go out there and you ask for nothing. Give everything you have, because you have gotten everything freely as well. He says, don't take any gold, silver, or copper, or any money with you. No bag for your journey, no extra shirt, no sandals, nothing. They're called to go into a town, search for a worthy person who's going to shelter them. So again, not asking for money, but they're going into a town where somebody will open their homes to them, feed them for the time that they are there, shelter them for the time that they are there, any clothes that they need, right? So they're not taking money, but they are accepting ways in which to be alive, right? Like ways to live and to keep them to be able to continue to go out and do all the things that they are doing out in their town. And they said, don't leave that house until you leave the town. So once you find that person, you're just going to stay there the entire time. And as you're there, you're going to let your peace rest on it. Now, I'm going all the way back again to Old Testament, and Abraham and Isaac, wherever they went, wherever they would go, because they were blessed, they were blessing all of the people and all of the area around them as well. So the blessing wasn't just for them, it was to expand and be for everybody and anyone in their area. And this is that same idea. So when you go to their house, you're bringing peace on that house. You are offering peace to that house as well, supernaturally, right? Like through the Lord. You're not just being nice because you're hanging out there and not fighting with them, right? Like you're genuinely offering this peaceful thing in being part of their house. And he says, I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. So the people that are going, they're not and I mean, it's the 12 disciples, right? So we know who they are in some ways, but they're not going out with swords. They're not going out with a whole entourage behind them, right? They don't have an army. They're not powerful influencers. They're not financial geniuses. Like, they're none of those things. So they are this lowly little sheep that is going out. By the way, their message is repent. So essentially they're saying, hey guys, you're not being very good. I need you to apologize for all the things that you have done against the Lord. I need you to turn back to the Lord and recognize that God has sent a Messiah, his son, right? So this is the message that they're sending to people. The people are wolves. A lot of people, as we have seen, do not like this message. Don't come and tell me that. Come in like a lion. This is what we were promised, that you were supposed to come in and we were going to be the best of all nations and we were going to overthrow everything else. And you're telling me that I need to humble myself and say, I'm sorry for everything that I've done. And then what gift am I receiving? A blessing from the Lord? Like, right? This is logically, this would not make sense to any of us, by the way. Like, this doesn't necessarily make sense to any of us, which is unfortunately why most of us come when we're broken, because we're not really prepared to come when we have everything. So I'm sending you out like sheep. So you have to be shrewd as snakes and innocent as doves. It means you need to know that there's going to be wolves among you, right? And be careful of those wolves. But you also need to be innocent as doves and be loving towards everyone, even if they are a wolf. Then it says, on my account, you're going to be brought before governors and kings as witnesses. It's not really going to go so great for you out in the world. You are going to be, it says, because be on your guard. It says, but when they arrest you, don't worry about what to say or to do. At that time, you're going to be given what to say. The Spirit of your Father will speak through you. Imagine if you were the two. Hey, Andrew and Peter, you're going to go up to, I don't know, let's just say the nation of Galilee. And when you go up there, no one's going to like what you have to say. The kings are going to come. They're going to arrest you. They're going to put you in jail. Do you see? Like, this is not, oh, I can't wait to go there. This is not an exciting role. Why would they go? They go because they know who the Lord is. They go because the message is important. They go just for the same reason that Jeremiah went. Just for the same reason that, well, I was going to say Jonah, but he's a terrible, Jonah didn't wind up going. The Lord made him go. But they go for the same reason that Ezekiel went. The same thing. They're telling their people things that they don't want to hear, but they have to because it's from the Lord and it's true. And so they need to be the messenger in this time. It says brother is going to betray brother. It's not, again, the nation is not going to take it. Children are going to rebel against their parents, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, just go to another one and you can go get persecuted over there, essentially. It says the student is not above the teacher, so you guys aren't above the teacher, nor is the servant above its master, but it's enough for students to be like their teachers and servants like their masters. If the head of the house is called Beelzebul, so like if the Pharisees came out and called me Prince of the Demons, they're probably going to do the same to you because they know that you're followers of me. He is preparing them. He's not, and it's, I do this in my spin class, which I always think it's really, I say the next song is take a minute because I'm going to kill you in the next song. That's probably the wrong expression on a YouTube podcast, but I'm going to make it hurt really, really bad in the next song. So take your breather now while you can, because what's coming is not going to be pleasant for you. So I like to warn people. Some people don't want to be warned, but I like to warn you. I feel like Jesus is doing the same thing. Like, he's not shady. He's not holding anything back. He's not telling them that everything is going to be amazing. We have this concept, whether you believe you have this concept or not. I'm telling you now, you have this concept that if you think to yourself, if I follow Jesus, everything's going to be amazing. Like, life is going to be better. And in some ways, that's true. I'm going to tell you, the life I live now is so much better than the life I lived before I knew Jesus. My status isn't any different. I don't have a bigger house. I don't have more kids. I don't have a job, but I was a stay-at-home mom before. So it's not like I don't have a six-figure job. I don't have a second home. Like, my status isn't any different. My heart has changed and my life is better. So if that means when I give this message, someone is going to say you're a wolf, or they're not going to say I'm a wolf. If someone says I'm going to persecute you because of this message, so be it, because the message is true. And so living in truth is more important than living abundantly. And these guys recognize that. And that's why they were the 12 that he sent. He says, don't be afraid of people who can kill the body. Be afraid of the one who can destroy both. Our focus is way too much on this world and pleasing people in this world and being part of this world, being accepted by this world. We've got way too much of that. And in some ways, I'm still the same. Like right now, again, political season, I'm not shouting from the rooftops all of my political ideals and thoughts. If I'm asked, I'm honest, but otherwise I don't really shout about it, and I don't post signs everywhere. But if I'm asked, I'm honest, because acceptance isn't the most important thing. Truth is the most important thing. I can't be afraid of anybody around me and in front of me. If I lose friendships, it would be awful, but that would have to be the way it is. If I lose my job, it would be awful, but right? Truth is more important than that. He says, because he's, and right now we see kind of one of those do not worry things. He says, there are these birds that are kind of worthless, like they're worth a penny in the market. They're not really worth anything, but God protects them and loves them. Don't you think for you, who, again, I said in the beginning, breathed life into, made in my image, don't you think I'm there for you? Don't you think that you are important to me? And we're extremely important to him. He runs the entire world, but he knows you by name. And I don't care who you are. I don't care whether you believe him or don't believe him. He still knows you by name. He knows how you think, how you feel. He knows things about you. He says, whoever acknowledges me before others. So don't be afraid. Don't be worried. Don't be worried about sharing any of this information, because whoever acknowledges me before others, I will acknowledge before my Father. So when it comes time to the end, I'm going to say, this one is mine. I'm going to acknowledge you. I'm not going to forget you. Whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. He follows up and he says, don't suppose I've come to bring peace on the earth. I'm actually not here to bring peace on the earth. I'm here to bring a sword. Remember, it says the king, the guys, he's going to come in like a lion, right? And he's coming in with a sword. So it might not look violent, but it is going to separate people. A man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be members in his own household. Someone is going to turn to the Lord. And right now we can see it very visibly in a Muslim community, right? If a Muslim turns to the Lord, they're usually shunned by the rest of their community, because if you turn away from your faith, you've turned away from your community. And so in some areas, and that's not mostly literal for most of us that live in the United States, but for some areas of the world, that is very literal, that if you turn to the Lord, you have turned away from everybody else. And you have to recognize what's more important. Anyone who loves their father and mother more, now we're going to know that different versions say, you must hate your father, right? Your father and mother, you must hate your father and mother. This version softens it just a little, just a hair, just a scooch. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their children more than me is not worthy of me. And you're going to say, how can I love anything more than I love my kids? If you love the Lord more than you love everything else, your love for your family is actually bigger. And so he's saying, just don't put them above me. Right? If you don't put them above me, it's actually going to be more. You're going to give them more. And I know it's not saying that here, but I'm just telling you, like from experience and from living it. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. You must be willing to go through some of these persecutions in order to follow him. Whoever finds their life will lose it. So if you find the truth, you find your life, and you're going to lose what you had because you have something new. Now you have life. You don't have death anymore. And whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. And then in finishing up here, it says, and if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones who's my disciple, truly I tell you, that person will not lose their reward. So how do you play your part in what you have been given? That's what I'm leaving you with today. So if you stuck with me and it's been a blessing for you, I want you to like, share, and subscribe. My same thing every day. And I want you to keep reading. As always, guys, see you tomorrow.